Recently, I've come to realize something. I am a music snob. I'm a music snob in that I'm set in my ways musically. I like what I listen to what I like, and I make an intentional effort to not branch out of that ever. And as a result of doing this, I really think that my guitar playing has suffered. For years, I've existed on a strict musical diet of blues, classic rock, Americana, garage rock, and R&B. And I've made an all but deliberate effort to not branch out and listen to new styles of music, specifically new styles of guitar playing. I'm one of those guys that says things like, man, I just don't like shredders, you know, I like people that play with feel. David Gilmour didn't need to play fast, and he could say everything he needed to say with only a few notes. And I know for a fact that that has held me back. And as a result, I'm not where I really want to be as a musician. I've been too set in my ways. I've been too fundamental about how I approach the instrument. And I think that needs to change.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I think that you're a snob about different styles of music, and that you don't give certain, that you're not well-rounded enough in your tastes. And I think that that kind of changes the kind of things that you play or that you would play. And there's genres of music that I don't think that you really appreciate or even give any time to. And I think it can be limiting.
I mean, it's definitely something I do. I don't know so much if it's an intentional thing rather than just I like listening to what I like listening to, and it reinforces my same. It's an echo chamber, basically. I'm in a musical echo chamber. You and I have been talking about this more recently, and it's like I've been playing the same stuff for years. I mean, literally, like the same stuff that I played when I was over at your studio working on records is the same stuff that I still play over 5 years later. I haven't really made any steps forward, I think.
Well, it's really hard to change your playing at a certain point if you don't get introduced to new genres of music or new styles that are kind of beyond what your wheelhouse is.
If you open up my Spotify and look at my daily suggested playlist, it's all pretty much the same thing. It's some combination of classic rock, you know, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and then Tom Petty, a lot of Americana stuff in there, Jason Isbell, Dawes, some R&B and funk stuff from the 70s through today. And then, you know, the garage rock bands, Jack White, the Black Keys, the Raconteurs. But I'm a guitar player, and arguably the most popular form of guitar music today, especially for my generation and the younger generations, is the progressive movement, the metal movement, and you know, all those genres that admittedly I know pretty much nothing about. Never really listened to it. I spent some time studying it when I was at music school, but outside of that, I've pretty much had an aversion to those styles of music, to the artists that are really pushing guitar forward and really reinventing the instrument and keeping people, specifically young people, interested in this instrument and this musicianship.
I think just listening to things over and over, when you first listen to certain genres of music, you might be like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's not interesting, right? These tones or this or that. And then eventually you kind of get into the vibe of it. Maybe not always, but sometimes you'll find some band that really catches your ear. Mm-hmm. And then you take it from there. And I think that would benefit you if you just would expand your tastes a little bit.
My whole guitar perspective up until this point has been, well, what were the guys doing back in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s? And not so much what's happening now. And it's this, like, I think it is a personality thing. You know, I like old stuff. I'm interested in time periods that I didn't actually live through. Maybe that's a common thing with some people, but it's this thing I have. I'm fascinated with what it would have been like to have played guitar in the 60s or the 70s. And I think that comes through my musical taste.
Now, for some reason, I tend to like old things, vintage things. This car is a perfect example. This car was passed down to me from my grandfather when he passed away. Other than the sentimental value that this car holds to me, I love this car and what it represents. And my musical taste is not very different. Most of what I listen to is either of the different generation or reminiscent of a different generation. My favorite music, my favorite bands that are out today sound like bands that were around in the 60s and 70s. My style of guitar playing and the tones that I play and the licks that I play are very old school. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love that. I love playing that way. I love listening to that sound. But I've spent too much time living there. And I've kind of developed this mentality that, oh, well, that was the best era of guitar playing. And that was the best era of music, this style of music. But I think I'm actually using that as an excuse. I'm using it as a facade. I'm using it as a way to hide behind the fact that I really can't play the modern styles of guitar that so many people love. I'm not a fast player. I haven't spent the time developing the technique or the vocabulary or the feel necessary to be able to pull that stuff off and play it well.
That's one side of it. The other side of it is, well, how do I expand? I'm not going to just take a complete left-hand turn in my style and my voice on the guitar, but I do want to augment and grow. I feel like I've followed this one path for so long, and I certainly haven't reached the end of it, right? There's still more to go, but I have sort of lost interest. Like, I don't play guitar very much at home unless it's for a video or for the band stuff or whatever. And even with the band now, we're playing stuff that is very much in my voice, and so I don't really have to practice that much.
Right.
We put a song together, we put an arrangement together, and it's so in my wheelhouse that it just kind of comes naturally. But I noticed this the other day when we were down here playing. There were things that I wanted to do and was trying to match the other musicians in the room that I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I could hear what I wanted to do in my head, but I couldn't make it happen. And that was the first time I've been really frustrated with guitar in a long time. Really frustrated.
So the bottom line is I've been sitting in my comfort zone for a really long time. And what I've come to learn, there's no growth in comfort. If you're going to grow and get better, you can't do it staying in your comfort zone all the time. You have to push yourself. In fact, this video is an exercise in that. I needed to get out of the home studio. I needed to get in a new environment, out of my comfort zone, out of what I know works, in an effort to try something new. Because if I'm just staying still and making the same thing over and over again, it's just like playing the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to get any better. I'm not going to grow. And I didn't get into music to stay the same. I didn't get into music to develop one sound and stick with it for the rest of my life. So here's what I'm going to do. For the next 30 days, I'm going to sit down here in this room and actively practice and listen to completely new things that are outside of my comfort zone. I'm going to do my absolute best to not just play the same repetitive things that I've been doing for years. Instead, I want to actively work on new styles of music and trying to implement them into the stuff that I already do. So at the end of the 30 days, I'll make a follow-up video and we'll see what happens. But I want your suggestions. Let me know in the comments section down below. Who should I be checking out? Who should I be listening to? Who should I follow on Instagram? What albums should I check out? Let me know in the comments section down below. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rhett Shull, and remember, there is no plan B.